Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to let me repeat, the Rock and Roll Podcast. Check out this record. My name is Frank, and with me is my good buddy, Mark.
Hey, Frank. Hello, listener.
You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
That's right. New episodes drippity drop every Friday.
For any new listeners out there, this is the podcast where Mark and I recommend albums to each other and we review them. Plus, we have a wide variety of musical discussions like our Spotlight series where we dig into a band's catalog and see what comes out on the other side.
Yeah, or in our Verse series, we pit two albums against each other and force them to duke it out for total stereo domination.
That's right. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, our Facebook group. We like to drop additional content that will hopefully leave you wanting more of our musical goodness. And of course, Mark's random nonsense. Now, if you have a record that you would like us to check out, just comment wherever you find us. While you're at it, subscribe, give us a review, a like, a rating, all that good stuff. So I always say this, Mark, how are you, my man?
Reggae. I'm good, brother. Pretty pumped to talk about the episode we have on hand tonight. How are you?
Yeah, well, you know what, Mark? Besides my old ass turning 40 later on this calendar year, we collectively as a podcast, we've turned 40. That's right. This very episode, Mark, not Mark's.
Yeah, we've been doing this since Frank's birth.
That's right. That's right. Big 4-0. So, man, listen, it's been a great ride from the awesome Metallica episode that everyone knows and loves, our Rancid Spotlight episode, which was awesome, the reviewing of the new Bob Dylan record, our emotionally draining two-part Fugazi Spotlight, the discovery of bands like The Frights, Rival Sons, our High on Stress interview, Mark's scathing review of Cloud Nothings, making me not wanting to listen to him anymore, and getting a little agitated with me last week during Dead to Me's episode. It's been a fun time, man, doing this. We're excited about the episodes that we have to bring to you guys. Mark, what about you as a reflection in these 40 episodes?
Yeah, it's been a super fun ride, chit-chatting and chin wagging. I've been trying to get that sentence to work all day.
Beautiful.
With you, Frankie.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we found what we were missing in Leatherface.
Yes.
Right? Had a blast making fun of Great White. God, that fucking band sucked. And we went on a long but fun, strange trip with Lord Haran. There's a lot of content coming up from us, so be sure you've liked and subscribed to us. You've turned on that ringing bell, and tell your friends. But most importantly, get in on the conversation with us. This is as much your podcast as it is ours. We love listener requests, so don't be shy. Throw them our way. The worst that happens is we tell you have terrible taste in music. I mean, what's the problem with that, Brian?
That's all that happens at the end of the day. And that Leatherface, man, that was one of my favorites too. So that was awesome.
Oh, we forgot one of my personal favorites that came up through the show. Black Love, the Afghan Wigs album.
That's right.
Fantastic record. I'm still looking. Anybody, Frank's birthday is coming up. If you want to send me that record for Frank's birthday,
thank you.
I'm into it.
Yep. So for my birthday,
you can send Frank one.
Well,
send us both one.
Yeah, for my birthday, you can send me and of course Mark.
Send me the A side. Send Frank the B side.
That's right. There you go. So, Mark, for the review we have on hand tonight, it's about a band who was here, and as soon as they arrived, basically they vanished. And we'll get to them shortly, but let's do a top list of bands that hardly had any shelf life. Now, this could be bands that weren't around for a long time, but and are currently inactive right now. They left an impact with us, of course, individually, and we wish we had more music from them. So this is super narrow with its focus. So we can even expand to those who have sadly passed. Let's split the 10 and do 5 each. Does that sound good to you, buddy?
That sounds good. You want to start or you want me to go?
Let's have you start it off, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my first choice here is going to be a little band called The Horrible Crows, not to be confused with the horrible band, The Black Crows. The Horrible Crows were a side project of the Gaslight Anthem's frontman, Brian Fallon, and his guitar tech, who by the end of the Gaslight Anthem was playing guitar in the band, Mr. Ian Perkins. The duo released just one studio LP and a live album. For me, this is Fallon's best work outside of the Gaslight Anthem. I would prefer to see him return to this lineup and styling over any of his shapeless faux soul efforts.
There you go. And you know what? It's funny because I wonder if this is if what he's doing now really is just a Horrible Crows? Did they progress, or you think that at the end of the day there was a different, really set focus for the Horrible Crows?
I think the Horrible Crows were intentionally a step outside of the Gaslight Anthem. And I think as far as his solo stuff goes, I think this was a further step away for his identity. I think I would definitely describe the Horrible Crows as a rock and roll outfit, right?
Totally.
They definitely, they had some session players playing drums and some other instruments. Brian himself played the Hammond B organ, which I always love when it comes up.
Yeah. And sounds like Ham.
It sounds like Ham. But his solo stuff really tried to step away from even that sound and go for more of a modern, not necessarily soul or neo soul, but kind of another sound entirely. And to me, it just doesn't work. I think his best efforts are when he keeps it simple. And I feel like he's over arranging. And the Horrible Crows, to me, were a good example of how he can express himself in a simple manner, but still deliver really well thought lyrics, really clean guitar changes and work. I think Ian had a lot to do with that, with some of breaking up the monotony of Brian's songwriting and adding something a little bit more developed, something with a little bit more depth. Not that Brian's lacking in depth, but after 5 Gaslight Anthem albums, 3 solo albums, it's not crazy to say that, hey, maybe that well's running just a shad bit dry, since, as we've been seeing with the solo albums, so many of them sound like songs we've heard before.
Yeah, that Horrible Crows album is great. I mean, I'm just looking at the track list here. I Witnessed a Crime, Go Tell Everyone, Cherry Blossoms, Crush, Marianne, Black Betty and the Moon. Great record. And
it's a great record.
Yeah.
And the live record is really good too. I certainly I'm going to recommend the studio album for what this show is. But I think that live album is a great representation of what these guys sound like. I really would have liked to see more.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, my first on the list is Uncle Tupelo. Now, I know from Uncle Tupelo spawned Son Volt and Wilco, and Jay Farrar, who's in Son Volt, and Jeff Tweedy, obviously, in Wilco. They were a great team, and they created a really perfect yin and yang of sorts, the order and the chaos, and how they work together in Uncle Tupelo. Often credited as like the first alternative country or cowpunk band. I think actually there are some few that predated them, but they refined the sound and they brought it to the mainstream. Then we got, of course, Son Volt and Wilco, which most know the story, at least more so of Wilco. I don't think Tweedy and Farrar are going to be talking anytime soon, because I don't think that's what they do, but it's always fun to think of what future albums by them would have sounded like. So Uncle Tupelo is first on my list.
Did you know that Tupelo honey is the most expensive honey in the world?
I do. Yeah. I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's the only thing I knew about that band.
Nice.
My number 2 pick is a band called The Holy Mess.
Yes.
These guys had a surprisingly short 10-year life in punk rock, reminiscent of the Lawrence Arms and the Menzingers. They played a fast, personal, self-deprecating, catchy version of what they believed punk rock could be. There's not a ton of information on the band. They released 3 LPs, 2 EPs. What we do know is the band's Steve-O moved on to be part of Steve-O and the Crippling Addicts. And then there's another member who joined another band called Bella Vista Social Club. And both have offerings available for you to check out. And they're pretty cool, but I really like The Holy Mess and what they brought. In particular, I definitely recommend their 2012 album. I'm probably going to say this wrong. Kende Rue La Degas. Look, it's the Black Album with
there you go.
HLM on it or something like that. Just look through their stuff. You'll find it. You'll see what I mean when I say the Black Album. It's cool stuff. It's a cool record.
Yeah, so Steve-O, obviously not from Jackass, right?
No. That's probably, I didn't think about that. Yeah, it is not Steve-O from Jackass.
There you go.
I think that Steve-O may have a band. I mean, I don't know how he wouldn't, right? Like, if you were in a band and you knew Steve-O and you weren't doing anything of note, wouldn't you be like, hey, Steve-O, like, come fuck around, we'll make a record, somebody will pay for it?
He's in the top 5 of people I would ask. Absolutely. Now,
if you knew him, yeah.
if I knew him, absolutely. Now, the Holy Mess. There's a funny video on YouTube where I forget. This is probably, I think, before the Menzinger's second album, where they're hanging out like after a concert, and it appears to be like an old apartment in the Philadelphia area, and they're all just having drinks. And one of the guys with the Holy Mess was joking. He's like, "This is why I hate the Menzingers." Obviously, they're friends. They were joking. He's like, "Number one, he's like, against me. How can you steal an album from a band and go on tour with them at the same time?" Referencing that their first album was like a ripoff of Against Me. But it was funny. It was just kind of
a little bit
funny jabs back and forth. So Holy Mess I am familiar with from that video. Outside of the actual songs, though, I will go and check that out for sure. Next on my list, Mark, what started in 87 and ended at 89?
Was that when I did the first grade?
No, that is the band Operation Ivy.
Oh, of course.
So, yep, 2 whole years and 1 studio album. I believe the first band to mix ska with hardcore punk. Listen, I could be wrong on that, but I think they are. I'm not
certainly
saying,
an argument you could get away with making.
Thank you.
At least on this show.
Yes, and I'm not saying that I wish they never broke up, as I adore Rancid. Obviously, we did a spotlight on Rancid. But again, even if we got like another album from them along the way, what would it sound like? Jesse Michaels really experimented with Common Writer, and it was okay. I actually liked what he did with the band Classics of Love. That was a pretty good album a couple years ago that they released. Anyway, I still have my raggedy old Operation Ivy t-shirt that fits, and I like it, and I like telling people about the band that don't know about it. Huge impact, 1 album.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there to say after that?
Yeah, no, I think you definitely nailed it easily, and certainly in the punk and ska punk world, one of the shortest-lived but most profound bands to affect any scene, let alone every scene. So, excellent choice.
Thank you, sir.
My third choice on this list, and this is actually a list for me, Frank, that's kind of in no order, especially because this was really a deep pull. I really had to spend some time on this. But for me, at number 3 is None More Black.
None More Black.
Yeah, not just a great Spinal Tap reference.
Love them.
Yeah. So this band, they were really badass. They, excuse me, though they can't seem to kind of hold band members together.
Yes,
like
that's
each
true.
record has like 3 different new people on it, but that's fine. Founded by singer-guitarist Jason Shevuk. I probably said that wrong. Sorry, Jason. After the demise of previous band Kid Dynamite.
These are all Philadelphia bands too, were named.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I just want to say that when I say the demise of Kid Dynamite didn't die. There wasn't a bus accident or anything. The band broke up. I copied and pasted that from Wikipedia. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Nevertheless, as None More Black, they've released 3 LPs, 2 EPs. It's just super snarky and hook heavy. Jason's voice is either grating or charismatic and endearing.
It's great.
While they haven't officially disbanded, but the band hasn't put out anything in 10 years, which is as long as they were quote unquote active. And Jason's side project, La Grecia, which put out 1 release in 2008, which I actually think is really good, has also
I like that album too. Yeah.
already started and stopped as well. This guy might be the problem. But I don't know him personally, so I really shouldn't say that, but fuck him, whatever. I don't mean fuck him. I just mean,
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. So let me see. That said, I definitely recommend This Is Satire, which I do own on vinyl, and the EP Loud About Loathing. I just absolutely, those 2 records are really badass. They really showcase his songwriting, his ability to be sarcastic and vicious and biting, but also their ability to write really cool melodies and play fast and melodic at the same time.
Yeah, so I when I saw that you had them on your list, I was like, damn it. I was like, how did I forget them? Because I love the shit out of None More Black. I believe we saw them when they opened with Against Me, Rise Against, and
yes,
and Anti-Flag. And after that show, I went out and got File Under Black, which is the first album. That thing was awesome. I was constantly cranking it. This Is Satire. Love it. I think that's my favorite out of the 3. And even the one from 2010, Icons, is a great album too.
Icons is really good as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, you see the guy, Jason, you don't expect that voice to come out of him. And well thought out songs, Definitely not generic at all by any stretch of the imagination. And I like what he did in Kid Dynamite too. So great choice there.
Yeah.
No More Black. I'm gonna go listen to them. So there you go. All right. My next one is Jeff Buckley. Now, my wife gets annoyed when I play Jeff Buckley, and I think it's because he's that good and his songs cut right through her, and she doesn't want to go to those places that he does in the songs. That's just my opinion.
I gotta ask her about that because that's an interesting thing to call her out on. Okay.
I am. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. Now, his debut and only proper studio album, Grace, is really a punch to the heart, the sternum, and the nuts all at the same time. It's a great canvas of beautiful songwriting that exposes complete desperation. His voice was such a powerful instrument with pure talent, rawness, and emotion. He covered Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah, which is what he's most known for. His next album, Sketches from My Sweetheart the Drunk, which was just released in a mostly demo form, I think would have been another strong effort. Sadly, at 30, the Mississippi River took him and he drowned. I often wonder what would have happened if he was still alive and created music. So Jeff Buckley is next on my list.
That sounds like a hell of a story. The Mississippi River took him and he drowned.
Yeah. A lot of speculation around that. He was, he was in the Mississippi River. He was singing A Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin, and
in the river, and the
river took him and he drowned. So,
Frank and I are going to start a side podcast called Murdered by Music. And it's just about musicians who have died under mysterious circumstances. It'll be more popular than this because it's about true crime.
Folks, that's what I love about him, because I know Marc just came up with that.
I totally did. Yeah, that came right out of my ass.
Love it.
But like, oh my God, dude, what is that story? Like, this is what we like doing. So you're going to have to deal with, there'll be more episodes of this than Murdered by Music. So deal with it.
Thank you, Murdered by Music.
So my number 4 pick is called The Falcon. This is the unofficial Chicago punk supergroup. The band features the Lawrence Arm members Brandon Kelly on guitar and vocals, as well as Neil Hennessy on drums, as well as Alkaline Trio's Dan Ardino.
Adriano.
I fuck up everyone's last name. It's not
Adriano.
Adriano on vocals and bass. Todd Mahoney. I think I said it right the first time. Mahoney of Rise Against plays guitar on the 2004 God Didn't Make No Trash or Up Your Ass with Broken Glass EP, but couldn't attend the recording session. I love that fucking title.
That's awesome.
But couldn't attend the recording sessions for the other band. The band's full-length feature, Unicornography. And his spot was temporarily filled by Kelly and Hennessy. With Dave House actually joining the band in 2015, playing guitar and lead vocal on just one track. That is to say, he played guitar on the entire album. He only sang one track on the 2016 release, Gather Up Chaps. I didn't bother to write down what the name of the song he played was, but it's easy to find. The band's fast-paced and raspy vocals are quite reminiscent of, you guessed it, the Lawrence Arms early work. But Dan Adriano's influence can really be heard along with his backing vocals. It just really adds a depth and that classic Alkaline Trio bitterness that I think fans will really appreciate. If you like either of those bands, you'll really like the way these two bands jam right the fuck together. And for this, I'm going to recommend that first LP, Unicornography, to check out. It's a really cool record.
Nice.
It's surprising. I think this is one of those things where they put albums together, because there's the 2 albums and the 1 EP, just kind of when they can all get in the same place. And since, Dan's touring the fucking planet with Alkaline Trio and everything that's going on with the Lawrence Arms, it's probably a little harder to get together. But not that they've broken up, but that they're just kind of like, we'll get to it when we get to it. Because I think it's a cool band. I'd love to see more stuff from them.
Cool, man. Absolutely. Yep. Falcon. Not the Ye Old Falcon Club, by the way, but
Ye Old Falcon Pub in Tampa, Florida. You owe us $5 for this plug. I fucking love your bar. I hope that you guys are still open and awesome, because I like getting drunk there when I'm in Davie.
Nice. Cool. My next is a band called Goaty Hook.
Cool.
Goatee Hook. I think it was supposed to be phonetic for like fish hook with the GH and fish. Anyway, I saw these guys open up for MXPX and the Hippos in '99, and I was very impressed. And by this time that I saw them, they were a punk influenced rock band. 5 short years prior to that, they released our first album called Sumo Surprise, and then another album called Banana Man after that. Those were faster, shinier, represented the skate punk of that time. The band was on tooth and nail, so yes, there's some context to that with Christian themes. But their final album, 2 Years to Never, to me is a great display of a loud, rock, mature punk sound. I would see them play shortly after that, I think a couple months at a skate park down here too, and then they disbanded. I often think about their potential because I thought the singer Joel had a great voice, and I think they had a really nice, loud rock sound with these punky guitars. That album in particular, 2 Years to Never, I often go back to. So Goatee Hook from, I think, Virginia is on there for me.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very
man.
cool. I remember you trying to get me into them, and I went, man, I'm okay.
Yeah, I remember that too.
But hey, you know what? That's what it's about, folks, right? We gotta try to turn each other on to something. So my final pick, maybe the most controversial. Most controversial of my picks. That's bullshit. I don't know. I just wanted to say that. Phoenix TX.
There you go.
I've always loved their album Lechuza. Thank you. Again, dyslexic, can't pronounce anything. Anyways, it's how I judge all pop punk. It holds, for me, the gold standard in the genre. So the band formed in 1995 as one word, River Phoenix. Phoenix spelled the way they spell Phoenix, TX, F-E-N-I-X, for those of you listening at home. However, in 1999, they had to change their name to Phoenix TX after receiving a cease and desist from none other than the actor, River Phoenix. That's right. They released their self-titled debut album, and then Lechuza 2 years later, both on major label MCA Records.
Right.
However, they would break up in 2002 over quote-unquote creative differences. Frank, did you know that between those two releases, the band sold over 60,000, the statistic said units, but I'm going to assume that's CDs.
Yeah, that's crazy.
600,000 CDs. And they broke up over creative differences, you fucking idiots. It's pretty impressive, though. I'm just on a roll tonight, folks. Anywho, the band got back together briefly in 2005 and were sued almost immediately for copyright infringement by Prince for the cover art of a live album entitled Purple Rain in Blood. That's rain the way that Raining Blood is spelled by Slayer. You can find the track listing online, but it was a struggle to find the live album. There was a copy of it on YouTube that wasn't very clear. I don't know if that's somebody just putting a tape recorder up to their camera on their computer and trying to copy it over or what, but I'm sure it's out there. Go listen to it. So what's interesting, though, is that 6 songs were cut from the album. Basically, the entire encore. Supposedly, it ends with a fade out of one more song. Anyways, there was a handful of covers. I would assume Slayer and Prince, as well as a couple other songs. While each member would go on to join another band, none of which made a significant impact on me or anyone else. The band would get back together in 2016 to reunite and release a 5-track EP called Creep. Released, but otherwise the band has remained silent. The EP's okay. I mean, it's what you expect it to sound like. It sounds a little better because it was recorded on better technology, is my guess. It's okay, but it's completely skippable, which is a bummer because this list is about, like, man, if you could just get one more record out of that band.
I know.
And then you do, and it's like, oh. Yeah, but
I didn't mean that.
Yeah, so for me, it's all about Lechuza, and definitely check out that album. I'd love to know what happened between them recording it and putting out that album, because really, to me, that's the band is peaking, and then creative differences go separate directions. I would have loved to know what happened and how somebody at MCA wasn't able to keep that together and get another decent record out of them.
Yeah, so they're an interesting band. First of all, I have the CD Purple Rain and Blood, just so you know.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Nice. Frank's going to bootleg that internet. You're welcome.
Yep, absolutely. Major Tom's another song on there that they do, which is that's a good song. So it's interesting. That band, again, they had everything. They had the recipe to really be the next big thing. And Warped Tour 99, 98.
They toured with Blank.
Yeah, so yeah, because they were known as really idolizing Blink at the time. When Enema of the State released, I remember at Warped Tour, Phoenix TX had a massive crowd.
So much better than
Blink takes them out. This is not a typo. Blink takes them out on tour with Bad Religion. Don't ask me how Bad Religion opened for Blink, and Phoenix TX. Phoenix TX was there. Opened up to a whole variety of audiences. They were on all the MTV shows at the time. All My Fault was a single that was being played everywhere. Then and it was a good pop punk album. All that, I mean, if you listen to the self-titled pop punk album, excellent from front to back. 13 songs. Then Lechuza comes out. Lechuza, totally different. It's mature, and I think that's
a little dark.
That's where the differences started, because I think half of it is still a pop punk album, but the other half kind of has those metal influences, and then boom, they went away. Interesting pick with Phoenix TX. I would totally take another record.
Yeah. So makes you wonder.
My last is a band that we talked about earlier this week, Marc, is the Blacklist Royals. So, we talked about them the other day. And my profound friend, that's right, you there, old pal, said Gaslight Anthem is blue jeans and white T-shirts, and Blacklist Royals were more rebels without a cause, or something to that extent.
Yeah, black leather jacket, rebel without a cause.
Yeah, exactly. So they're a current band, but they're currently inactive. I'm putting a question mark to that. They had 2 albums, but the second studio album, 2004's Die Young With Me, is really something special. Combines the punk energy with their first album, and adding traditional rock and roll structures with the backdrop of these heavy life issues such as cancer, which one of the brothers, because they're twin brothers, was going through. It's a great themed album about life, and damn it, I want more from them. That's all I got to say. So Blacklist Royals, I'm waiting.
Yeah, great band. I got to see them open for the Swingin' Utters 5, 7, 10 years ago, something like that. I don't know. Down at Miami at Churchill's. Really great band, puts on a great show. I follow the bass player on Instagram. I think he sells real estate right now, which, hey, good for you, bro. Do what you got to do. But really, really nice, easy to talk to guys, really into making cool rock and roll. And I believe he filled in on bass for Red Line.
Oh, wait a minute.
Red City Radio.
Red City Radio.
Filled in for Red City Radio for a little bit there. And they have a new bass player now, but I believe he did some touring with them. Fun guy. And if you can get along with the Red City Radio guys, I like you. So
there you go. That's awesome. Cool, man. So that completes our list. So
yeah.
Appetizers done, Marc. So now on to the main course. So
entree.
That's right. So here we go. So the band we're covering is a band called Tallhart, Tallhart. The album we're looking at is We Are the Same. This was released in 2013. Now, not a lot of information on these guys exists. They're from Tampa. They were on Equal Vision Records. This was launched by Max Bemis of Say Anything. Taken from the Equal Vision site, it's stated here that the band already built up a solid local fan base and has quickly been gaining more widespread recognition, consisting of vocalist guitarist Matt Segalos, guitarist Chris Brickman, drummer Reed Murray, and bassist Glenn Espinoza. Marc Bemis would go ahead, Max Bemis, you're Marc, just kidding. Yes. Max Bemis would go ahead and say the following: they are Tallhart, a brilliant young band from Tampa who could write a stadium rock level anthem like no one's business, but don't shy away from those lovely dense songwriting. They also put on a sickeningly great live show. Bemis expounds. To me, they combine the best elements of early U2, Manchester Orchestra, and some sort of a young Pearl Jam. The last one's a pretty weird call, but I stand by it. This is Bemis, of course. Basically, smart and brave music, rich with a swelling, unfiltered feeling. I've been working closely with them on many aspects of their music and the record, and I'm extremely excited for their release on the record label. This is before the 2013 release, and we're going to review, Marc. So you said you think you've seen them live before. Is that correct? And what do you think about Bemis's assessment? I know you're more savvy with Bemis and Say Anything than I am. So
Yeah, my wife and I believe we saw them back somewhere around 2013 on tour with Max Bemis's wife, who sings in the Texas-based band Isley.
Got it.
We could be off on the time or the tour that they were on, but it was somewhere in that frame. Or at least I think they were. I'm not as sure I agree with the bands that he compared them to. But like he said in the phrase, lovely, dense songwriting.
Yeah.
Tallhart comes across as a rock and roll band with genuine soul, not a rock band dressed as a soul act or a soul band making a rock album.
There you go. Yeah. And the band had some other releases under the name Marksman. That's Mark with a K, not my buddy here with a C.
I can't believe people don't just name all their albums and records after me. That seems
I
seems
know.
foolhardy on their part. But
I was able to check out the Blue and the Gray EP from 2010, and it said that they had a full length called Sister of Mine, of course under that same name, under the Marksman name, but I couldn't find that. However, Tallhart's Bloodline EPs was released in 2012. It's a strong EP in my opinion, and one song in particular, Brooklyn is Burning, I would suggest people check out. That's a very, very special tune. So, Mark, for first impressions of Tallhart when you're putting this in and getting in that space and listening to it.
yeah, I'm really happy you mentioned Brooklyn is Burning. That song is about lighting a girl on fire, Frank. Like a young girl named Brooklyn. No, I'm just kidding. They had nothing to do with that. My first impression is tricky because, as I mentioned, I believe I've seen them before live, but I can't be entirely sure. They remind me of the first Civilian album, which, if you've listened to our Bass catalog, you know about it. If not, find it in the catalog.
That's right.
But with a little less snark. Which I think works definitely for this record. That said, I found the cover out of this album really interesting. We see the band's name across the middle of the album with the title and just smaller font underneath it, both set on what appears to be, and I'm totally guessing here, a woman's face, eyes shut behind a steamed shower glass. I spend a lot of time in the shower thinking about my feelings and processing emotions, so that really spoke to me. If nothing else, the mindset of being in that kind of headspace where you're just trying to zone out and process what's going on. I like that as the cover of this album.
Cool, man. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's get into the track listing. So
you want to get into Our Bodies?
Yes, let's get into Our Bodies. And by Our Bodies, I mean the song, because that's the song, not mine, Mark.
Definitely not sexual.
No one wants to see mine, Mark's bodies. Let's just be honest. All right, so here we go. So from the opening guitar note, you know this is going to entail some gut-wrenching emotional textures and feelings. We get this rich harmony, similar to me, the Fleet Foxes, which is dark laden in a wintry tone. We get some lyrics here. As I lay your head down, give my love to you. Our bodies make a beautiful sound, give my breath to you. A better man than he was before is what the narrator is stating. So if this is a story and this were to play out, I think, in my personal opinion, there's a concept here. And of course, without this person that the singer is talking about, the singer then is a tortured soul. Matt's voice is legit. He's got a pair of pipes. That's awesome. There's pitch issues here. This dude was, again, blessed with a high quality pair of pipes. So Our Bodies is the first track. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, the use of harmonies here is one of the band's greatest strengths. They really play to it very well. The lyrics are simple and really effective. The song is only 2.5 minutes and really is just 2 verses, but it does a gorgeous job of building a lovely crescendo and sets the tone for the whole record, and leaves the listener ready for an intimate listening experience.
Nice.
That said, track 2 is called High Speed. I love the tone and structure of this song. It builds with Our Bodies really does this gorgeous crescendo, and then it comes to a silent stop, which I really like the way they did that. But it builds back up from that and starts growing again, capitalizing on Matt Sagalo's, that's the only time I say his last name wrong, vocal abilities, using more of his voice more as an instrument than a big lyrical delivery system. But the lyrics are really great, and it both just add wonderfully to the band. Lyrically, as I was trying to get onto, but forgot how I wrote this, I would have liked to see the connection between Last Breath of the Endless War and the blood pumping through the heart of the city. I would have liked to see how those things connect, perhaps in a third verse. So for me, with this, of course, being a song called Our Bodies and how that concept and these two ideas connect, I think it's really interesting. And I think it's something that they try to pull through the rest of the album. And we're going to dig into that. This was definitely a cool track. It's not one of the stronger songs on the album, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, so it's a big arena rock song style to me. I like the lyrics. It says, "I like to think that we were made to remember. I like to think that we were made for something more." Well, for someone reaching 40, that's very potent to me, right? The song.
That's Frank.
That's Frank, by the way. The song took me a while to get into, but I appreciated when it picked up and Matt's voice starting to reach those high notes with such precise control. I mean, people moving in high speed as a collection of moving parts. I really like that placement. So it's either not wanting to miss a thing or wanting to slow down and enjoy life, or maybe it's both. I think the main character's love interest and the feelings that go along with it, or what he's trying to wrestle with it, true or not, that was my assessment, and I really dig the song. Next we have Fighter, Marc, Fighter. Yeah. So the next four songs to me not only represent the high point in the album, but perhaps a story, a series of events. They may be chronological, but I'm sure one can make the case that it's not necessarily like that. It's just the way I took it. I'll explain more in a minute. So in regards to the music of this song, I love it. Big intro with a nice opening riff. Chords are similar to Chuck Ragan's The Boat, which I've always dug, that chord progression. So I liked how I recognized that a little bit. The voice again's reaching those falsetto points, and it's really just impressive. I mean, the chances, I would say that Matt, I don't know if Matt's had any voice training or is a classically trained singer, but man, I mean, he's got a pair of pipes, and it's just awesome. I love the lyrics such as, "I've never been afraid to say you were wrong. I've never been the kind you want on your side. When I see you, make me want to believe I'm a fighter." I think this is, in my opinion, the case of your heart being so vulnerable to a person, but they present a challenge in a good way, in a bad way. Who knows? One can debate that arguing is good, but for some may not like that, hence why he mentions that he runs when things get heavy. So what is said heaviness, right? And that has brought us to the point where if things don't progress, perhaps in this relationship, then it's over. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more based on my assessment into the next song. But that's my assessment on Fighter. What about you, Marc?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you chose this as kind of the starting point for what you think is like the overarching kind of story, the high spot, if you will, of the album. I think it happens later on. Maybe it's the length of the song, but I feel like it's twice as long as I would care for. And the tempo never really seems to change or change up enough from part to part. Feels a little bit like the song drags out in a single tempo. But that said, lyrically, I like his phrasing and delivery throughout. The context, the impression, it kind of comes across that this is about a little bit of his relationship with God. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. That's just kind of the vibe I got from it. That's not my thing, but I'm not holding it against him, as he's not preaching. He's just talking about the relationship in general, which I think is an interesting thing to do. Again, my issues with this song really are just, I would have liked to see a little bit more in terms of tempo change. And I would have liked a little bit more separation between the choruses and the verses, just to break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
That said, the next song, A Ring and a Reason, as a drummer, that I kind of love the fade-in drum intro. Though it's kind of the same tempo as the last song, it did confuse me at first. I thought I missed a bridge for a moment there. That said, I really like what they're doing here musically much, much more. We get some distinct verses and choruses, which with breaks that keep the song moving along. I really like the, you're going to laugh at me, the O part.
Oh, I think it's great.
Because I can't sing it. But there's just a chorus of O's, O's, O's into the bridge and outro that are really beautifully done. You really feel that moment in the song. You can really connect to it. It's a very touching moment musically. Lyrically, he has some great phrasing, but perhaps gives too much detail without completing some of the concepts. I would have liked a third verse here that tells a little bit more of the story, from the barreling down the hill, giving the subject a ring and a reason, and then the subject's father and the cancer, whether that's the father is a cancer or the father has cancer or the father is giving them cancer, whatever that might be. I would have liked a little bit more completion of that. But, as we've been kind of going through this record and talking about it and thinking about it, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's where he is, where the narrator or the songwriter is, assuming the narrator is proposing to someone. Perhaps an answer has yet to materialize, just like the answer I want to know what happens. I want to know, does she say yes? Does he say yes? Do we find out what's going on with the father? Does he have to fight the father? What is it? I would have liked to know what that is, but maybe, much like life, we're left in the lurch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good assessment. Good assessment. So
thank you.
I feel like sometimes on these episodes, I must sound like Bono at his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speeches, because he
I will
says,
stop doing these before you sound like Bono.
Thank you so much, man. But man, he gets up on there and he's like, everything was such a big influence to him, and he's nominating these people left and right. And I say that a lot too, but I'm being serious with this song, and it's not a work. When I say, if I could create a song with this sound, I totally would. I love the bridge that blends so nicely back into the chorus. I don't think I know how to do something like this, and it's hard to describe when you're writing, so I do apologize for not being able to articulate that a little bit better. But I love the drum leading off the song, love the riff during the chorus. Matt's emotional singing really leaves you no choice but to feel what he's going through. So lyrically, we get stuff like this. As Marc said, you were barreling down that hill with a mind full of madness. You're going to burn a bridge tonight. Don't die a martyr for the man. Make your own damn mind up. Purge the... Okay, so online it says purge the heaven, but I'm thinking it says purge the habit after we listen to it. Take my hand, take my hand. So to me, if the story left us off in the last song in a relationship that was on the brink of destruction, he wants to give her a ring, therefore announcing his commitment that creates then the reason. However, there's some things that must be done, like a breaking from the bridge that gives you life. And of course, the whole father's cancered will. What exactly does that mean? Now, what are we breaking from exactly? Well, that's what we're going to find out in the next song. And the next song is See God Again. So by the first verse, we see what this is potentially about, and that's basically adultery, right? So I think that's why we get maybe many spiritual overtones here as they're taking it, as the sin and layering it that way. We see the main character here telling us what's going on. I knew I'd find you by the lake. I know the way you think. That's where I laid you down for the first time. You were such an eager soul with diamonds in your eyes. I saw that. You said you'd be my only love, but you were still my brother's wife. So
whoa.
Yeah. So now, is this an actual blood related brother? I don't know. It could represent a very close friend for sure. Is God that's being referenced, is that actually the God, or is that the concept of a God? Again, it's left up to interpretation. And of course, the line, as I burn my father's son, is up to the listeners too. So we have the sins taking place, the recollection of the wedding with the main character's interest and brother, and then what appears to be a tragic event occurring where I think, and Marc has another take on this, which is cool, where the love interest is killed with running headlong into the night as if they threw themselves in front of a car, or the person couldn't take it anymore. The main character is sitting there watching it across from the field. Listen, whatever the case is, faith all around is questioned, and I take the See God Again is that they'll never be part of something good. Listen, musically I love it. It's mellow, it's somber. The piano adds such a nice touch in the background to almost matching the emotion of the song. Light harmonies, again, showcasing the attention to detail, which creates to me a very high quality song. Obviously one of my favorites because I'm rambling on about it, and I'm not just saying that that's one of my favorites, but gives me a complete high for 4 minutes. Marc, your assessment on this song?
Yeah, so I really dig the harmony sung intro. I think that's really cool, the way the band pulls together vocally to do that.
So
really
cool.
Clear and soulful storytelling. In the previous track, we get Barrelin. Here he's using the phrase headlong, which is really interesting to me. The descriptions of motion lyrically, both in narratives, but both used without adjusting the tempo, right? We're still moving at this steady rhythm, the steady pace, but he's describing motion and making you feel that barreling, making you feel that headlong run. Really, really great use of lyrics and lyrical delivery here. I may be connecting dots that don't line up, but I like the juxtaposition of both his brother's death and cremation, and whether or not his brother or he will see God. The question, who is the song addressing? Is he addressing the brother? Is he addressing the brother's wife? Is he addressing himself? Is he addressing God? Posing the idea that perhaps his brother maybe was God, or that the sins, i.e. banging his brother's wife, will keep him from seeing God again. It's long for my liking, but very well crafted. The other thing here is I see that first phrase about being the first time he committed adultery with his sister-in-law or his brother's wife, however you want to look at it.
Right.
And the second about the brother's death, and then confessing that the sin to his brother's corpse before cremating it. Really interesting, really heavy. I dig it.
Yeah, so this is where we had the different take, but it was interesting too, because when Marc said that, I was like, I didn't even think about where the second verse would be then about the death of his brother, because we really don't know. So I just thought in my head, I'm like, it's continuing on in a sequence of events right then and there, where it's the sister-in-law, it's the girl who runs off and something happens headlong into the night, but Marc took it a different way. This is what's so cool about music, folks, is that we have all these, we're creating a whole world and a whole story, and we have some cool stuff at the end of this episode to fill you in on that stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, and the other kind of fun thing about that is that there's Frank's idea of what happened, and there's my idea of, not of what happened, of what it means. There's my idea of what it means, and of course there's the songwriter's idea of what it means, and whether Frank and I are close to anything, whether any of these clues mean anything, is completely in our heads. Kind of one of the fun things about certainly albums like this. Moving on.
Yes.
Track number 6, Holy Coast.
Oh, so good.
This, Frank, is my favorite song on the record, hands down.
So good.
It's simple and profound. We get just Matt and a guitar pondering, to me, life itself with just enough detail to make you feel like you're overhearing the most interesting personal conversation that you should have never heard. I love the reverb building towards the end, and then it just cuts back and repeats that opening line with just him and the guitar. Frank, you're going to do this one much more justice than I. Why don't you tell the folks?
I love this song so much, man. Listen, slightly over 2 minutes, but man, what a commanding number. I mean, again, just as Marc said, it's Matt on the acoustic guitar, exposed, vulnerable. And my interpretation of the song is the aftermath of what we previously witnessed. So this is the starting over, right? The faith and the demons theme is still present here. And he's like, I want to tell you I quit drinking and I don't need a crutch. It's just great to me. So Ramona, so we have a name here. Ramona gets mentioned, and that seems to be maybe an old fling, and she's located on the Holy Coast, which I'm assuming, this is my take again, is the West Coast, is California. So I'm, of course, envisioning these guys being from Tampa, right? And therefore kind of these things taking place on the East Coast. He tells her that she was right and that he was afraid to lose it all, and he just lost it all, right, in the previous song. So by staying in California, he imagines a life with Ramona and feeling that he could have lived. That's how I took it. It's simple, touching, beautiful. Marc loves it. I love it. Thank you guys for writing it. That's all I got to say.
And this is one of those situations where, and for me, we talk about a lot of bands and a lot of albums, and you'll get this one really big, really extravagant number that's so deep and so heartfelt, and it's 12 fucking minutes long. And people get tired of hearing me say, does it need to be that long? And this is a great example that you can really get personal and really tell an interesting story and connect with people in just 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And
sometimes less is more.
And it's harder probably to write those 2 minute songs because you have to, or those 12 minute songs because you have to compact it all in there. Yeah, good, great, just a great tune, great tune. So next is The Fire. I thought the story aspect would to me would be done, or at least in my head, but I'm reading the lyrics and how he mentioned California, and I'm like, oh, so this is after he decides he wants to go back. And Mesa, Arizona is mentioned, and of course, going back home to California, it's the fire that burns, it's the old fling, she's a blue-eyed girl. It seems to be that he's really contemplating if he should go back, but there's something burning. Musically, it's straight up rock. It's a really good track to me. That's fire. What about you, Mark?
Fire! I like how the bass does a lot of work here in driving the mood and the tempo of the song. We haven't really gotten a lot of bass bass guitar work here. It's pretty straightforward, 4/4 rock, but they use the studio really here, really nicely here to make the sound bigger, and the addition of the acoustic guitar in there as a part just adds a really nice touch. And I think that may be why we get a little bit more bass in this, and it's allowed to take a little bit more of a lead because the acoustic guitar is used so, I'm going to say gently.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just used in the right place, so it allows the bass to shine a little more. But I thought he did a great job on that bass line.
Yeah.
As for the lyrics and the characters that Matt suggests for us, I think he's done a great job of tying this album together in a really pretty way, but still allowing each song to stand on its own merit. I think this was a great song.
Yeah.
So
great tune.
The next track is called Mexico. Or as most folks know it, Mexico. Yep. Very reminiscent of Civilian here in the opening. For me in particular, I thought I was listening to that Civilian record. But you also get your buds, Lord Huron here, Frank's personal friends.
Yes. Yes.
The production here is just so super clean and vibrant. I would have liked a little more variation in the music as it follows almost a very similar structure to a Ring and a Promise with just different choruses and lyrics. That said, I like this track better than that one. The drums do a great job of accenting the lyrics rather than just simply pushing the song along. Plus, it's just 3 minutes, and it's all you need to get this really touching message across.
That's cool, man. I love the vibe in the intro here. The guitar is super cool, and then the rest of the band comes in, really creates this great full sound, and the chorus of "Oh Mexico to save my soul," super infectious. So if we're progressing my version right of the story, he lets his instincts take the wheel and take a chance, and the chance of what I'm assuming is to be the girl. Ramona, reference to past songs. He gets back to Cali, and she seems to be in love with someone else. So where does he go for some soul searching, saving, and restoration? Well, Mexico. So that's how I took it.
Mm-hmm.
Next is Wandering Kind, the 9th track on the album. To me, this has a cool late 90s vibe. I like how you have this intro. It takes you in this one place, and then it's a sharp turn. And it's a completely different melody and tempo. The guitar's layers here are great, especially when Matt's saying, "I could do better." Those lines really stood out to me. So our character's heart is the wandering kind, and he finds security in moving along. Again, if this is a story, then I take it as their journey on the West Coast or in Mexico, that he's finding in a relationship, but his demons are still popping up due to the past experiences. I enjoyed this one. I really appreciate it more musically with each listen. So I like this tune. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, another song I really enjoyed musically. I think it's the most dynamic of their work. We really get from the full band. I don't know that I found to have that kind of 90s sound or vibe, but I like the way the band is able to turn the corner between verses and choruses and keep the listener really engaged and really listening to what's happening, not just lyrically, because you can get tied up in these lyrics very easily. But this one, the music is really engaging, and the band keeps your attention the full time. For the first time, I'm actively listening to the band as much as Matt's vocal performance, because Matt's this album's all about him stealing the show with those pipes, man. He's just great. And that said, lyrically, he still crushes it on the song, especially, and I'm going to read some lyrics here. I apologize if I do them out of rhythm or tune. I never say it's right, but my heart is the wandering kind. And I'd only break you down, but my heart is the wandering kind. And the only peace I find is in moving along.
Yeah.
The simplicity and attention to detail are just gorgeous and poignant. For example, he uses moving along consistently over what I think a lesser songwriter would have just chosen moving on. He really articulates along, and I think it's that kind of attention to detail of him enunciating it that really sells the personal aspect of this song, that you're not just buying that this is a character in a song. You feel like the songwriter is really attached emotionally, perhaps actually, to this person that he's singing about. It just really well done.
That's all. Yeah, love this song, and I agree with you with that attention to detail. That's so important, and that separates. I think those who are really talented and really, 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 really talented.
Right. Yeah. No. And yeah. So, at song number 10, we have "We Are the Same," the title track, saved for the closer. A bold choice. Let's talk about it and see if it pays off, Frank. I don't know. That sounded more clever when I wrote it. It opens with Matt and a guitar again. This time it's an electric, and thanks to Frank's notes, I know that he's palm muting, giving it a staggered rhythmic pulse that carries through the song. The band joins in as he builds from a simple snake in the Garden of Eden motif and builds to a hypnotic chorus repeating, "We are the same, you and I." Really simple, really powerful. If you're like Frank and I and hold an album as one piece of art with several pieces of art within it, you can really feel the connection of all these tracks to the rest of the album. And I understand why they chose this for the title track. But before I get into my final thoughts, because I know that's kind of where I just started going, I really dig this track. It's moody, textually resonates with the listener by directly addressing the listener and the singer, you and I. And that's that attention to detail, right? We are the same. Yeah. I think a lot of bands would have just repeated, "We are the same," but we are the same, you and I. So that as you're listening, as you start singing along, as you're repeating the words in your brain, you and I, you're connecting with him. We are the same. I think it's a really interesting detail that really connects you to this. I understand why you got so hooked to this.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, and I love the palm muted and distorted guitar and just Matt's voice. You could just feel that song at one point. It's going to be getting heavy. I love the opening set of lyrics. I mean, "I'm a liar, the snake in your garden, hanging from your willow to conspire. You heard the devil in my voice of denial. Still, you're drinking deeply from my honey lips." I mean, religious and spiritual overtones all over here. Who exactly is the same as the main character in the end? What is the love that we saw in See God Again, or was it the love that we saw in See God Again, or is he saying that he is indeed the snake and possesses malevolence, but good has their own version? Listen, a different approach. It's a completely gray area that crosses into it, but it's definitely that whole snake in the garden territory, which is awesome, and that's a fantastic close to the album. And yeah, just I mean, a great album. Everyone knows my thoughts on it for the final thoughts, but Mark, why don't you share us with your final thoughts here?
Yeah, so this isn't an album I think I'd normally get myself into. I don't know what kind of replay I'll have with this record, but I gotta tell you, the sound on this thing is beautiful.
That's great.
The production is clean and clear. I have very few criticisms about the musicianship or songwriting as far as an album to dive into and try to just peel apart. I think it was a wonderful and really, I think I can speak for both of us. We really enjoyed talking about this record.
Yes.
and just kind of trying to pull apart what the story he was telling was in each track and applying it to a larger theory of an album. Not necessarily a concept album, but in that state. I would have loved to see these guys go on to work with some producers who make who take more of a risk sonically in the studio, like a Rick Rubin or Ben Schneider from Lord Huron, to help them develop that soundscape and explore the studio further. However, I do love the feel of the album. It feels like you've rolled into their rehearsal space, like everything that they've done could be done on a stage, and it's just as powerful and just as meaningful without a big studio to back that up. This is a great pick, Frank. I would definitely recommend folks at home find this record, find a good set of headphones, if you're like me, take a trip out to Denver and just enjoy this thing. It's a cool record.
Yeah. So, I don't remember where I was when I first heard about this band or how did I come across it. But it's been a go-to of mine for a while now. I think since around the 2013-14 timeframe. I know I've been super high on this record. And when we started this project way back, 40 now episodes ago, this was on my list of albums that I'm like, I need Marc's opinion on this. I want Marc to listen to it. I just love the songwriting on this, Matt's vocals and the emotion behind it. The songs, to me, they're not overly long. And the whole concept idea that I've made up in my head, I mean, that's the beauty about something like this. You could take that and do what you want to it. And to me, it's entertaining and it's fun to create a story like this to see how it plays out. You're gonna say something, Marc?
Yeah, one of the things we haven't covered about this record and that we normally talk about that I think you just hit on a little bit is while this album's only 10 albums, it's also only 33 minutes long.
Yeah, 10 songs. 33 minutes.
So while we do get, the opening track's only a minute and a half, there's another 2-minute song, and there's a couple 4-minute songs. The balance of this record, right, when it comes to moving in and out of songs, when it comes to song structure, and that's why, you mentioned earlier that, kind of tracks 3 through 7 were your favorite. For me, I think it's kind of
Holy Coast and on from there.
Yeah. I think it's kind of that back half of the record for me, but the balance on this thing, as you were saying, is just really, really tight, really clean. And I like, you guys have heard me in the past say I would put that song at the end of this record, or I would have opened with this. I wouldn't change a single track on this record. Yeah,
the details were totally attended to here.
Yeah.
Very meticulous. It's just, to me, it's an absolute special album. I try to tell everyone about it that I can. And I was going to actually then talk about where the band is now and how come there's not much information on them. But I was able actually to track down the bass player, Glenn Espinosa, and got some updates, which is pretty cool because I was so curious about this band and where are they. He was nice enough to reach back out and have a conversation with me, and he said singer Matt is living in Tampa and is being an awesome dad. Guitarist Chris is also in Tampa working for a production company and is married. The drummer Reed is in St. Pete and became a father, and the bassist who I spoke to, Glenn, is in North Carolina finishing school. So he stated that they had very fond memories of their time as a band, and when I asked him, of course, is there stuff available on vinyl, he says that they do regret not pressing their records on vinyl. So if you do want the record, obviously streaming or physical copies, that's where you got to go. I was super glad I was able to connect with him. I'm going to send him the episode too. And thank you, of course, Glenn, for listening to our Deftones episode, which I know you liked a lot also. So I really, really appreciate that support. But yeah, it was really cool to find out kind of what went on. And of course, I'm glad these guys are doing well. The fanboy in me, wants more music, but to me, their happiness is important.
Well, I like that it sounds like they're all getting laid.
There you go. Hey,
that's pretty good. I'm happy for you guys. Get it wet, buddy.
To me, this record is just super, super, super special. It makes me feel good inside, even though it's so emotionally pressing. But it's just a beautiful record, one of my favorites. And I love telling, music fans out there that a band like this created one of my favorite records. So, Tallhart, everyone, check them out. Check out the Bloodlines EP as well. Just so much good stuff from a band. So yeah. So Marc, you want to take us into next episode because that belongs to you, buddy.
Yeah. So for next week, we're going to test Frank's boundaries a bit with some melodic hardcore. I remember being introduced to this band under the guise that, quote, this is somebody talking to me, you won't like them, they're girlfriend hardcore, which I kind of loved that description. But to me, this is really where emo and hardcore meant. And to be clear, when I say that, I don't think screamo is a real genre. I know. But by that, I mean, most screamo bands are just pop punk bands screaming over it, but with less to say and less emotional drive to the music. And they're just kind of like sad sacks with mediocre music abilities. So I don't think screamo is a style. I think there's emotional hardcore, and I think this fits right into it. If you want to call that girlfriend hardcore, that's fine. I like hanging out with girls, so whatever your problem is. Anyways, so for next week, we're going to listen to Defeater's sophomore album, Empty Days and Sleepless Nights. I like the risks that they take here, pairing heavy melodic music and well thought out lyrics while still being able to take an acoustic guitar and create a ballad that doesn't feel fake or pretentious. Does that sound good, Frank?
Yeah, it sounds great. And especially what sounds great is I don't know much about them other than I think they're from Massachusetts. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I know I've heard of them in passing. I think I know where their origins are from, but this is kind of a blank canvas for me. And I like that you're bringing this on. And it's interesting you say, right? Because you have melodic hardcore and it's at the intersection of emo and hardcore. But I agree with you too, because I don't necessarily believe that screamo is also a real genre. So I'm cool that we're gonna kind of listen to this and see what we make of it. And yeah, I'm totally amped about it. So thank you for the recommendation, my man.
Yeah, my pleasure. This will be an interesting one just because I'm not I'm not emotionally attached to this the way I usually get to some records.
There you go.
So this will be a fun one for us to dive into because this, if you're new to the show, this is not Frank's wheelhouse. Frank likes punk rock. Frank likes some hardcore, but modern hardcore isn't really a thing for him. Although you got into
Turnstile.
You got into Turnstile pretty good. You were into that. I think you'll find a little bit more depth here in terms of lyrics and in terms of maybe what they're doing a little bit more musically. It's a little bit more complicated, or it might just turn into that thing where you're like, everything's turned up too loud and I don't like it. It could go either way.
Yeah, I remember with Turnstile in particular, I actually was one that was wanting their songs to be longer because I felt they were too short. So I wanted more of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, listen, I'm really amped to check this out, and you guys will hear our thoughts on them. And so excited to listen to this, and I hope everyone can't wait for us, like I said, to discuss it. So listen, everyone, thank you for listening. Drop us a line. You know where to find us. We're all over the place. If there's an album, of course, that you want us to review, let us know. We are friendly guys to chat to. So bring it on. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye-bye.